This episode of the podcast is brought to you by our friends at Regrow, the premier cloud-based cannabis supply chain management system.
Compared to other software systems on the market, Regrow is a strategic business partner, and when you work with them, you get all aspects of regulatory compliance built in, with the added value of workforce management, inventory, SOP management, and reporting and metrics that allow for companies to scale successfully. Basically, think of Regrow as your single pane of glass view into your entire supply chain. They're available globally with native localization and foreign language support. If you have a vertically integrated and/or multi-state operation, Regrow will help you increase your revenue while keeping your entire operation fully compliant. Visit their website at regrow.io. That's regrow.io. Regrow, the premier cloud-based cannabis supply chain management system. Hello, my fellow people of the plant. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Cannabinoid Connect podcast, your favorite podcast that includes industry-facing conversations with the industry's leading experts that aim to educate and inform the public regarding the plant's endless benefits. My guest today is Socrates Rosenfeld. He's the co-founder and CEO at Jane Technologies. Socrates, welcome back to the podcast. It's good to have you, man.
Great to be back on with you, Kevin. Thanks
Yes. I can't remember. I should have looked at the date of when I published our episode or when we recorded, but I know it's been a while and there's a lot that has happened in that time frame, particularly in the cannabis industry. So before we dive into the major announcement that both, Jane Technologies and Leafly has announced, I first want to talk about you, man. What have you been up to? And what is Jane Technologies been up to?
It's been one of the same. We've just been working and enjoying every minute of it. I think there's no industry that's growing as fast as the cannabis industry in the world. We've had some exciting unfoldings recently in DC with the recent elections. I think it's an indicator of things to come. Hopefully at a federal level, if not, continued at the state level. We've had some states like New Jersey, Arizona, et cetera, going adult use. So really it hasn't, our mission remains the same. Let's continue to build the digital infrastructure for this industry. Let's continue to work in partnership with the operators in the space. And as digital partners, let's enable them to step into this digital world and provide safe, accountable access to cannabis and allow our consumers to shop like they shop for everything else in this world, except now it's for cannabis down the street. So it's been a lot of fun, man. And, around every turn, we're like, okay, this might slow down, and it just never does. It always it's just picking up more and more. And it's, this is why we got involved in the space, and there's no place I'd rather be, and certainly no place I think the Jane team would rather be too.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine it slowing down. I totally agree with you because, I mean, all we're going to see from here is, new legislation being presented. They'll probably tweak it here and there, eventually vote on it. Different measures will be passed. So I think from here on, it's just kind of going to be warp speed,
Exactly. And, it's definitely going to be warp speed. And I think as an industry, it's important we don't lose sight of the vision, right? We don't. We're close. We're getting closer. We've worked very hard to do things the right way and play by the rules the right way. And okay, no 280E, fine. No, all that stuff. No bank accounts, all right. And we're making it through. And I think we're proving to the world that not only is the industry able to professionalize itself, but I think we're proving to the world that cannabis is something that really people need this generation, I think for future generations to come. So yeah, man, warp speed ahead. That's for sure.
Yeah. And speaking of, we're going to get into the partnership with Leafly, but I've been citing a lot of the stats that they've been putting out in their various reports. One of which is the fact that there are now more legal cannabis workers than EMTs and paramedics, and more than twice as many legal cannabis workers than dentists.
Yeah.
And that's from the Leafly 2021 Cannabis Jobs Report. So, you know, we maybe talk about it and it may seem anecdotal, but the evidence is there. You know, it's pretty remarkable.
This is what does Ben Kovler say from GTI? This is the next great American growth story. You know, we have that opportunity, and
Yeah.
we're going to grow. And I am going to sound like a broken record on this show. I apologize, but I think now it's not if we're going to grow, it's how we're going to grow. Are we going to grow as you know, one or two big tech companies winning it all, like we see in restaurants? Are we going to grow, you know, in a way where we can take care of all businesses? We grow the pie. I think I'd like the latter, and that's kind of the mission for Jane. But yeah, the growth is there. No one's going to question that, and that's it's exciting to be a part of.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I want to see more variety. I don't want to see a monopoly or, you know, one or
Right.
two conglomerates that are just kind of running things. And, you know, unfortunately, right, we may get to that point, but and that who knows when that'll be, but we should keep the focus on variety and, you know, everybody having a piece of that pie, you know, including the people who have been disenfranchised by cannabis, you know, the
Absolutely.
people of color, the people that have been thrown in jail and whatnot. You know, that's another part, important element that we need to consider as we move into warp speed, you know.
100%. There are hundreds of thousands of people still incarcerated. Largely, a lot of them are from the Black and brown communities, and we got to get that right. That's priority. In order for us to, I think, really truly end prohibition. That's a large part of it, and I have faith in the politicians in DC as they're trying to make that a priority, and I think that's you bring up a great point. That's not something that should be overlooked.
Absolutely. Well, Socrates, let's jump right into it, man. So I know that I saw a press release recently, big announcement coming from both Jane Technologies and Leafly regarding this whole concept of integrating technologies to build a better online shopping experience. So before we touch on the features and the functionality and kind of what consumers will see, let's first talk about the pain points that y'all are addressing from both a consumer and a retail perspective.
Yeah, it's a very exciting announcement. I think the foundation of this partnership is in a shared mission to build the digital infrastructure for this industry to grow. Um, you know, if we don't build that proper foundation, uh, everybody suffers. The consumers suffer, the operators suffer, and so I think we're at an important time where this partnership made a ton of sense. And so if you take what Leafly does best, I would argue best in the world, SEO, right? They
Mhm.
have a strain library. Anytime you type in any strain, they're going to be on the front page, and that comes with a massive responsibility to put out, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Being
mean,
able,
any type of research that I'm doing, it's Leafly always the top one or two search results. And it's to your
right,
point, it's SEO. They've covered every aspect of the discussion when it comes to cannabis. You know, and what I mean by that is the cannabinoids, the terpenes, the
right,
flavonoids, the endocannabinoid system. I mean, you can find all that content on their site.
exactly. So the information they have, both user generated information, but really kind of very professionalized content around cannabis, is massive, and it is a hub of information for the global industry. And I was traveling overseas a couple of years ago, and I was you know in a car with a driver, and I was explaining to him I was in the cannabis industry, and he pulls out his phone and he shows me a Leafly tile. You know, we're overseas. That's the kind of reach that this company has, and I think they've earned that right.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, personal story real quick, Socrates. I
Yeah,
have a cannabis section. I categorize my apps, and Leafly is the first one in my cannabis category of apps. So yeah, I mean, totally.
exactly. It's a trusted resource, right? In business terms, they call it the top of the funnel, meaning they're going to get a lot of individual consumers to their site. And so they do a wonderful job of channeling those consumers down to local dispensaries that participate in Leafly's program in their marketplace. Then you have Jane, where really we are becoming the digital infrastructure for this industry.
Absolutely.
When you talk about e-commerce, right? We can integrate now into every other third-party software imaginable, from almost 100 point of sale systems, CRM, ad tech, martech, payments, right? We're the connective tissue that's now connecting these different pieces of the value chain on behalf of our dispensary and brand partners. From advertising, digital merchandising is what we call it. The ability really to provide brands the opportunity to really put their merchandise in front of the right people. We call that people who have a high propensity to purchase that product. I don't consume concentrates or extracts. I love flower. That's my thing. And if I go to a store, I don't really need to walk by the concentrate section, right? So in a smart way, I would love to see the selection of all flower personalized to me.
You're talking about personalized shopping. Exactly.
Exactly.
It's basically tracking behaviors, purchase behaviors, and then feeding that consumer the products that they're most inclined to purchase. Right?
Bingo, man. Like we love Spotify, right? Personalized. We like Netflix, personalized. YouTube, personalized. What if we could personalize the cannabis shopping experience? Pretty cool, right?
How granular can we get with that at this point? Like, I know you mentioned the example of like you don't like concentrates, you like flower, but
Oh yeah,
can we get as dialed in as like, I need this particular strain for this particular ailment, or what have you?
absolutely. Not only do we take propensity data, but now we have a verified review system with close to a million reviews, where consumers can actually share their experience and tag products with effect base. Hey, this helped me sleep. This helped provide appetite, and also activity based. Hey, I'm outdoors, or I want to be social. And so we're aggregating this data. We're cleansing that information. We're connecting these different systems. And wow, together with Leafly's audience information, content resource, strain library, together, we think that is a very valuable resource for the industry. For operators, what do? They get now this, fully integrated, automated infrastructure that helps operationalize, or I should say, digitize their entire retail operation. And attached to that, now they get this wonderful resource of Leafly that is basically the front page of cannabis for the world. And now together, I think we can funnel those consumers down to these local dispensaries and do it in a really seamless, automated way. And we're really excited to kind of bring this to market. Happy to get into the details of kind of what this means today and potentially where this might go.
Yeah, let's get to that. I have one follow-up question first,
Yeah.
and that is, so I know that in most adult use states right now, when consumers are using various apps when it comes to like locating their local dispensary, right, or even ordering something, the pricing menus don't usually like correspond to the store's inventory. Is that right?
Exactly, man. This has plagued the industry since the beginning of the digital, since Weed Maps came on board, in 2000. Shoot, I was still in the army. I don't know, 2007, 2008, something like that.
You were still flying helicopters,
I was
right?
still
Weren't
flying
you
helicopters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was and then you fast forward now, what is that? 13 years. I'm a completely different person, man. But aren't we all, Kevin?
I'm with you. Yeah. I've lived like 3 different lives, man. It's crazy.
Hey, man, that's living, right? The 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 issue is when you look at automated online menus, really we're anchored on in the restaurant world, because that's really the only time I'm using. They call this O to O, leave it to Silicon Valley to make everything abbreviated and sound very sexy.
Right.
Online,
Or the military.
or the military, right? Not so sexy, but definitely abbreviated. Online to offline, O to O, omni-channel they call it. And so you think about, I'm on DoorDash, right? I want to order a spaghetti bolognese. I go on DoorDash, I pick it, I'm online, it goes offline, it gets to me, or I go in there and pick it up. So in cannabis, the world or the other tech companies have been anchored, I believe, on, hey, there's a menu, it's online to offline. Let's just build technology that will accommodate for that. The issue, though, is that Italian restaurant down the street to me in Santa Cruz, they sell the same spaghetti bolognese every day. Never changes, right? Never changes. That's going to live there. So you can actually scrape that menu one time, have it live up there. That's it. You're good. The average dispensary in this industry carries about 600 SKUs. Those change over 50% of the time, week in, week out, meaning one out of every two products you see at a dispensary this week is not going to be the same that you see next week.
And are those okay? So stop. I'm gonna stop right there. Are those?
Yeah.
Is that because is it that they're carrying different brands on such a frequent cycle, or is it the products that the brands offer that they're switching out?
Both. That's the crazy part, right? You take a company like Raw Garden. I mean, they're coming out in California, one of the most popular extract companies. They have some beautiful products. They come out with like a new strain every week. That's their like, and you take cookies, for instance, etc. There's new strains coming out, new variations, and that's just flour. That's just concentrate. Now imagine edibles, etc. So you can see how that starts to get very, very complex.
Right.
So kind of before Jane, a lot of companies, when they were thinking about digital menus, were just conducting what they know, what's called a scrape integration. And let's scrape this information, have it live up there. But really, the dispensaries are going to have to manually update these menus, very similar to how a restaurant, they no longer sell spaghetti bolognese. They're going to have to change that out, right? To chicken parm or whatever.
Right.
Forgive me for my limited Italian food.
Yeah, you're good.
And we have an Italian employee, and he's just shaking his head. I can hear it. But what we do at Jane that I think is really, it's never been done before in the world. We have a few patents on our capability. We're able to actually extract the information, the inventory information in real time. We can cleanse that information, so no matter if it's misspelled, because things are moving in and out of the store really quickly. These poor bud tenders are like putting products in the night shift, the day shift. Maybe they abbreviate things differently. There's a lot of quote unquote dirty data.
Right.
Jane automates all that stuff. So really at the end of the day, what that means is the dispensary just has to manage their physical inventory, and their digital platform will reflect that in real time. And that's the problem that we've solved. I think that's what differentiates Jane and has for a very long time. And now what we're able to do, it's a great segue back into this partnership with Leafly, is we're able to actually push that real-time menu information to Leafly's menu now. So now a store not only doesn't have to maintain their own embedded solution on their own website, but now this is automatically going to update onto Leafly's website too, saving time, so that retailers can do what they do best, and that's provide in-store consultation.
What was the way that they had to do it prior to this, like on the Leafly side? So if I was a dispensary and I was carrying new strains or updated product, different SKUs, like would I have to manually go on Leafly and update that as well?
Yeah, probably more times than not, you would have to manually be updating your content. And there are still dispensaries that use other systems where I've heard this multiple times. They spend about 20 hours a week manually updating menus, manually updating content.
I believe that, because I'm thinking like if you have to do that for Leafly and it's not integrated with like Jane, right? Then you'd have to go on both platforms and do this, and multiple others maybe if you're listed otherwhere. Yeah,
exactly right. Lead maps, right, etc. There. So really, what we are trying to unlock and enable is, hey, this is what we do well at Jane. We do many things not well, and we choose actually not to do them. Leafly has unbelievable content, wonderful SEO. We love their mission of providing trusted information to the space. Hey, can we help them out by helping with the technology, the integration piece, and in turn, can we help out our dispensary operators, thereby creating real-time accurate information, and then going back to our mission of providing a trusted resource for consumers so that they can know, we never, could you imagine going on Amazon and ordering something and then it never shows up because it wasn't in stock? Like
No,
that happens, right? Or buying a
no.
plane ticket
In
and
this day and age, it would be unacceptable.
it would be unacceptable.
Yeah.
Exactly. Booking a place on Airbnb and then showing up and be like, oh, sorry, man. No, that didn't happen. But and that's, I think, brings up a broader point of the cannabis industry we need to be done with good enough. Oh, this is good enough for the cannabis industry. I've heard that so many times. Oh, you have a weird like credit union banking account. I guess that's good enough. You can't do real time integration. Oh, I guess that's good enough. I think we're done with that. I think, in fact, we should, in my opinion, set the pace for what O to O looks like for the world. Look at what we're able to do in cannabis now. We can't do that with convenience stores. We can't do that with, general retail, alcohol, etc. I always get a limited amount of brands if I'm going O to O. Now I go on DoorDash. Restaurants don't even list their full menu items.
Right.
It's kind of a very, I would argue, a broken system. Man, we're not doing that in cannabis. Everything you see online now, powered by Jane, is in that store guaranteed. And I think that's a pretty cool thing and a pretty cool story if we look back and we're like, wow, some of the most cutting edge technologies actually were born out of the cannabis industry because we weren't anchored on how restaurants do it. We weren't anchored on how, convenience stores do it. We're kind of inventing this for ourselves.
You know what? I couldn't agree more with you. And I can tell how passionate you are. And I'm the same because it's like we're sitting back, or I'm sitting back, and we're in this industry where we're at the forefront, right? And we're kind of making our own way and kind of figuring things out that suits the industry best due to our, really unique needs, right?
Exactly.
And it is such a unique time because it's a time in which we could really start to lead when it comes to other industries and how they have operated for so long, right?
Sorry, just go ahead, Kevin.
Go ahead. No, that go ahead.
I was going to say, man, you're inspiring me. It's not even just the technology too. It's like, man, the models out there, and I'm not trying to talk negatively about the restaurant industry or the tech companies that have shaped that industry because they are very successful. But I can't find a restaurant that loves their online platform.
Right.
Right. I always hear, man, this is it's a necessary evil. Like this is helpful, but I don't make a lot of money. They take a lot of margin. And what if we could change that in cannabis to where the tech companies are actually working in service to these operators and growing the pie for everyone? And what I mean by growing the pie is we're growing value for everyone. I think that's an important piece and often overlooked because we like to go where the path has been created for us. It's very easy, right? Always.
Right.
Okay, we take 20%. That's what we do on the transaction. Well, what if we don't? What if we take 0%? What kind of model does that create? And that again, we're on a mission at Jane to reinvent how these models work and how technology works, and there's no better incubator, in my opinion, than the cannabis industry. And so we're really grateful to be here.
That's a great way to put it. The cannabis industry is like an incubator when it comes to, doing things differently, operating differently,
Yes.
right?
You got it.
And I like, how do we do that though, Socrates? So like, obviously I'm about it, you're about it. There's others in the industry that are about it, but like you see so much, I don't want to use the word division because it's not division, but it's like kind of separation of I'm doing my thing, you do your thing. And there's so many different states that are coming online, right? When it comes to adult use, but and maybe I'm missing it, but I don't see this collaboration among states to kind of help each other out and figure this out as an industry as a whole. You know?
Yeah. There's a ton of fragmentation out there. I came into the industry in 2015 and there was a lot more collaboration going on. And someone told me at the time, they were like, this is not going to last forever. And they were right. And it's natural, right? Anytime you come into a kind of a capitalistic market, There's going to be competition, and that's healthy. But in my opinion, the way to affect that is doing exactly what you're doing. You're doing everything within your control. You're spreading the good word, and you're pursuing your passion and doing it right. I got to imagine that having a podcast is a passion of yours,
I love it. It's great.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly, and your voice is growing, and the listeners, and they're going to be affected by your message. At Jane, we feel the exact same way, except our medium isn't podcast. Our medium is software. And so how do we go and expand our software and do the right thing? And our focus is on us.
And it's so important because like if we don't band together, then ultimately we'll lose in some way as a whole, because we all want the same thing. We want more accessibility for the plant. We want the economic growth. We want the social justice reforms and all that. But if we don't band together and educate as a collective, it is going to be so difficult come time when the policymakers step in and the healthcare system and the pharmaceutical system and even legacy technology companies step in, because there's not going to be that understanding education out there.
Exactly. And this is why we have a finite window to shape the industry the way we envision it. And this is why Jane is here, so that we can work in partnership with the other operators in the space, retailers, brands, fleet management software, CRM. And we can say, okay, how do we build something right for this industry? Not how do we dupe the consumer or pit one store against the other, or wow, Jane's going to make a lot of money, but that means that the retailers can't, or only support the top 1% brands out there. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but man, maybe there's a better way. And I think we have a window where we can actually sit down at the table and be like, well, actually, is there a better way? And there might not be. But we think there is at Jane, and we're gonna go and try to prove that out. But you're exactly right. It's not forever, man. And if we don't use this time wisely, then we've squandered a massive opportunity, and I would argue a once in a lifetime opportunity to shape a global industry. And as entrepreneurs, what more would you want?
I could not agree more, man. You nailed it with that last point. I mean, everything you said, but that especially, it's like the window of time is crucial right now, and we're in a unique opportunity. And you know, um, it's gonna go one way or the other,
Yeah.
So we might as well do our part,
Amen.
So
Amen.
what is Jane Technologies? I mean, outside of the major partnership with Leafly and the amazing work that y'all are going to be doing to help, both the end consumer and the retail dispensaries, like what else is Jane Technologies like planning on for 2021 and beyond? What are your goals for the future?
Um, we find ourselves at a very unique point in time in the history of retail, where retail is digitizing itself. It has no choice, right? And I think that was accelerated with the pandemic. Everyone now is starting digital first. And for us, our focus, so if that's the case, where now retail is digital first, and you talk to some of our partners, there's a wonderful MSO, Jushi, and talking to their team, and they hit the nail on the head. They said, now that things are digital, our brand is tied to the online shopping experience, right? If you think about retail brands, Home Depot comes to mind immediately. Their brand is the showroom floor on Home Depot, like the lumber and like no frills, and you talk to the expert, everything's in orange, and like you feel like a builder. Like, I mean, I'm the least handy person. All you have to do is ask my wife. I walk into Home Depot, man, I think I'm like a carpenter. That's their brand. That's their brand, and they've done such a wonderful job. But guess what? Now I can't go into Home Depot store, or maybe I don't want to go into Home Depot store. It's not convenient, it's unsafe, whatever the reasons might be. So I'm going to start at homedepot.com. Well, homedepot.com's experience is now affecting Home Depot's brand.
Wow.
Right? How I shop on walmart.com is now how I think of Walmart. And so for us, At Jane, now it's, okay, how do we let GTI's brand be GTI? How do we let Jushi's brand be Jushi? How do we let the small mom and pop store here in Santa Cruz, Three Bros, SC Naturals, I love our neighborhood shops. How do we let them build their own digital brand without burdening them? We have MIT engineers and data scientists at our company. This is what we do. A retailer doesn't have that capability. So how do we give them the tools to say, okay, let us take care of all this really hard, quote unquote, hard science stuff, machine learning, data cleansing, all that stuff, and then give you the platform where you can drag and drop and build things very easily, like a Squarespace or a Wix or a Shopify Plus. And now you can own your digital brand. That's where we're focused. And it's easier said than done. You just have to ask our engineering team. But man, again, coming back to what we were saying, there's no leader in this space. No one's built this before.
Right.
It's going to come from the cannabis industry. And at Jane, we take that very seriously. And so how we define what headless e-commerce is will set precedent for how these retailers build the future of their companies. And so we want to make this as simple, as flexible, and quite frankly, as powerful as possible. And that's our focus. So we're heads down on that for this year, for sure.
That is a major, important key factor, and it's a good focus area for y'all. And is that brand look and feel, right? It needs to match what your brand's about, and you can't templatize everything. Exactly. So, the fact that Jane Technologies is allowing for that customization, so that brands feel like they have the freedom to really kind of express themselves and their products in certain ways is crucial. And I can't imagine the back end headaches, like you said, that your engineers are dealing with to figure that out, because that's a large undertaking.
I love the word you use, providing freedom. I might steal that from you, Kevin. Providing freedom for the retailers, because you feel, man, that restaurant is stuck. They're not free. They're stuck with Uber Eats and stuck with DoorDash, and they're stuck. They can't go anywhere. They can't even leave them. They're just right. They're like, shit, I'm on this. Sorry for swearing.
No, you're good.
But we have a saying at the company. It's called "Go where it's hard." Go where it's hard. If you go where it's easy as a software company, you're not creating any value. You're not capturing any value. If you can have to quote an army term, the intestinal fortitude, the courage to go where it's hard, have those hard conversations with the retailer and be like, damn, this really is tough. This is really challenging. And you can solve that, man, you really are disrupting something. You really are pioneering something, but you got to earn that right. And at Jane, this is what we do. We go where it's hard. We don't want to go where it's easy. Everybody goes where it's easy. Anybody can create the 20th Facebook, right? And anybody can put a search engine. You're not going to win though. But why? Google went first, and they went or second or third, or however you would define it. But man, what they did was really, really hard. Mm-hmm. It's not easy, and that's going to be a tough company to displace. So for us, that's a signal to say, man, that back end stuff is really hard. We're going to double down there, and then, we rally around that at the company.
What do the Marines say? I think it's everyone wants to go to heaven, but no one wants to die.
Amen. Right? Oh man, that is so true on so many different levels.
Right. It applies to any type of aspect of life. It's always easy to go the easy route or cut corners, but to actually take challenges head on, especially big challenges like what Jane Technologies is undergoing, it's pretty remarkable. And I would even argue that when we talk about brand recognition, particularly in the cannabis space, I would argue that may be even the most challenging type of branding that you'd have to develop. And I say that because the cannabis product is a lifestyle product, right? Obviously there's therapeutic value, medicinal value, but a lot of people consume for lifestyle, for recreation as well. And a lot of these companies that are entering the space, they better have a solid branding story, what their company's about, what they stand for, because if not, they're just going to fall into the mix of everything else.
Go where it's hard.
Go where it's hard.
It's right. It's easy to copy. And what we're trying to do at Jane is, you're exactly right. These brands, they have no Facebook. We just got our Instagram shut down, so Thank you very much, Instagram.
I tried to tag you guys today. I was wondering about that. I was like, what did you do? Yeah.
It's a real, but as our marketing coordinator, Leah says, it's a good opportunity for a fresh start. Positive spin on it. But
I feel so sorry for marketing directors in the cannabis space, man. Look,
that's it, right? Like that. So at Jane, from a tech standpoint, we're like, man, we feel you. That's real tough. What can we do? Well, how can we help you? Right? Digital merchandising is one. Really good market basket data to understand how your brands are performing, SKUs are performing. Who are these customers purchasing your product? What are they searching for? What are their, how do they review your product? What do they say about it? This is all stuff that was never attainable, a year ago, that now we're making available. It's a start. It's not the answer, but it's a start. But yeah, the to be a brand and to establish yourself is really tough. And I see the best brands are true to themselves. Papa and Barkley comes to mind. They started that company, Wellness. They had a story, man, that resonates with people. Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance in California, one of the most prominent flower companies. They have a story. They started growing cannabis as medicine for veterans. If you can have that, right? Kevin, you started this podcast for a reason, right? And when things maybe get complicated or confusing or challenging, you just come back to that mission.
Right.
I think that's important. And,
or if you just always have the mission top of mind, you kind of block out everything else. You know what I mean? Like,
true that.
There's some people that get hung up on the criticism. There's others that get caught up on the glory, right? They're basking in all the kudos and whatnot. But you got to take all that with a grain of salt, because ultimately when the blinders are on, that's when you're focused and you just move forward.
Exactly. Exactly right.
I'm with you, man.
For companies that don't start with that mission, right? Or maybe other missions that maybe are weaker, then they're going to go in a certain direction. But the good news is that this industry was founded on mission. Not just Jane, the industry. Hey man, we're gonna risk going to prison to grow this plant to help people. There are some that weren't, right? Okay, fine. They want to make money, whatever. But where the people I saw here in Santa Cruz, the medicine that was given to me by growers in Santa Cruz, man, that left an indelible mark in my mind that I will never forget. This is why we're doing this. Right. The money is great. The recognition is great. That's a derivative of staying true to the mission. And I think let's not lose sight of that. And, we more podcasts like yours, Kevin.
Thanks, man. Hey, I appreciate it. And I couldn't say it better myself, Socrates. I'm with you on that mission, man. And I'm going to continue to plow ahead. And I know that Jane Technologies is going to continue to be, spearheading on the technology side as well. So as we wrap up, Socrates, I'm going to give you the floor. Anything that you want to leave the audience with, and then also just let people know where they can find Jane Technologies for your website, social media. Rest in peace, your Instagram, but it'll come back soon.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we'll build it up with a new handle. If you'd like to reach out to us, please hit us up at info@iheartjane.com. If you're an operator or a retail operator or a brand, want to understand what we're doing, hit us up at demos@iheartjane.com. Really nothing additional to share with your audience. I think, we've come out of a very trying year globally. We're all about shared experiences at Jane. And no matter whether you're in the South, on the West Coast, Republican, Democrat, we've experienced this year together, this past year. We're still in it, right? We're still in this pandemic. Let's not lose sight of that and all the noise. I mean, we're just human beings trying to figure things out. And I don't know if that's the message that you were intending me to say, but that's top of mind for me today, man. Yeah, it's just, we're all in this thing together. Whether we're in one company or another, we're experiencing this thing together. And I think if we can start there and live there and hold that space, man, I feel confident for the future. And I think we will.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Socrates. I look forward to having you on again, man. And thanks everyone for listening. Bye.